live a good life so that way you have a legacy so your children can benefit from the fact that their father was a good man or their mother was a good woman. Everything I do is all about legacy. When I walk out of that room, what are you going to say about it? My goal in life is to keep that credit rating, that interpersonal rating, whatever you want to call it, by treating everybody great, treating them with respect, doing things that's going to impact people. I'm still going to fall short. I'm still going to have things that are not as good. But if you bring the sum total of everything I've done, the good and the bad, I would hope that by the time I'm done with this life, the net would be more good than bad.
Welcome everybody to episode 20 of the Paul and Pals podcast. I'm your host, Ponyboy Paul. And Paul and Pals is the podcast where I interview my creative pals to learn how they became who they are today to inspire you for tomorrow. On this episode, I have a creative conversation with my pal, Foxy P. Foxy is the founder of the African Princess of Comedy Group. He's also a stand-up comedian himself, and he's also a wedding host in his free time. In this episode, we talk about how he came here with just enough money to fund just 1 year of college. We talk about how he's able to make his comedy profitable from the get-go. And then lastly, we talk about what he means by doing things specifically for his people. So without further ado, let's get creative.
All right, bro. Hey. You know what I'm saying? Something light, you know what I'm saying? How you doing? Are you... How's my audio? How's everything?
It sounds good. Sounds good,
Yeah, man. I can hear you pretty well, man.
How's my lighting? Because I try to do something where it's not like just throwing shadows and stuff.
Yeah.
Am I good?
It's good. It's a little slightly dark, but I can see you pretty well. Is it like on you or like off you right now?
It's off me, yeah. So see, it becomes darker.
Gotcha.
I'm trying not to make it too dark, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's looking good though.
Yeah, we could optimize, yeah.
Bet.
Sure.
We can do some little post edit. But now, man, how you doing right now, bro? How you living? How's everything? How's life?
Oh, life is good, brother. Life is good, man. I'm really excited about this. Are we on?
Yeah, we're on. We're live.
I seen the wine now.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, that's how you know we live, bro. But
that's how we know we live, man.
No, I'm excited too, and I think I always like to start with how we met and everything. And I actually just posted the picture on my IG story, right? So I actually met you back when I still had hair. I met you back in 2015 at the University of Michigan. Yep. I was participating in the ASA, African Student Association. It's like a talent show, cultural show, whatever we do. And they invited you to be the host, right? And the funny thing was, I remember Tochukwu at that time was the president, and he had said yo, our host is coming in. Can you help him find a barber and everything? So he gave me your number, and I'm like, yo, this is Paul, what's up? And you're like, yo, Paul, where's the nearest barbershop? I got to get ready. And I remember, I think you went to Niggles Arcade Barbershop, and from there, and we kind of kept in touch, obviously, with social media. Yeah. But the funniest thing was that when I thought about hitting you up, in January, I think it might be before January, I texted you, right? And I didn't hear anything. I didn't no response. I'm like, damn, this man changed his number. And then I think I then hit you on IG. And then that's when you finally responded. And then you were like, yo, that's fine. Just hit me on my number. And you gave me the same number that I already texted. I'm like, damn, this man never replied back, bro.
It sounds like the kind of thing I would do.
Yeah, but
that is definitely within the range of crazy that I would literally somebody, I haven't talked to this person in a long time, and they just hit me. The first thing I'm going for is why? Why? It's not oh, Merry Christmas 2 seconds ago. No, it's just yo, boom, 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 boom. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's see how bad they really want whatever they want, right? And then afterward. So literally, but to be honest though, I'll be very honest with you. It took until I looked at when you DM me on IG and I clicked on your page. Because I know you as Paul. I don't know this whole pony thing going on.
That's true.
Are you a furry? Are you into My Little Pony? Is that you? What's with the whole pony thing? Help me understand.
Actually, I can bring that back, and I've probably told the OG pony people know, but it's actually a weird story. It actually came about on Twitter, right? I was trying to you want to have a cool social media name, right? So I was like, oh man, I gotta find something. And one day I was messing with a friend, and I purposely spelled her name wrong, right? And shout out Alat, she might be listening, watching this. and I took a letter out of her name or something like that. It's like, okay, and she was like really funny, and she spelled my name Pol. And I was like, yo. And at that time, I had a favorite book called The Outsiders, and the main character was Ponyboy Curtis. So I was like, yo, Ponyboy, because he was my favorite character at that time, and then Paul. And then from there, it just became a thing. And then I've had that since 2013, 14, and it's just always been my thing.
Nice. That's a good origin story. That's a good origin story.
Fine.
Yeah.
But that's why. So I can see why you might have like saw that name on IG or like, who is this MF? And then
I'm like, who is this person?
Yeah.
I'm very. I don't do podcasts. Well, not even podcasts. I don't do interviews because I feel like, there's only so much of yourself you can give.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so this is exclusive.
People. Yeah, it's like people who are not in entertainment, they have the luxury of living their lives with some kind of like, they're like enigmas. Like you don't know everything about them. There's some secrecy to them. There's still some special sauce. And I find that the more time we spend in the entertainment world, the more of you give out. Where after a while, it's kind of like I've seen this happen. I've seen legit like comedians being in an interview, not even comedians, but like people being in an interview. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I grew up somewhere. And then somebody's like, no, that's not where you grew up. You only spent 2 years there. Like, legit, bro. Like, people are correcting your life story because you've given too much out.
I see.
So, but anyways, with us, we have that bond.
No,
so there's no way you
I really
me
appreciate you getting back to me. I saw your phone calling one day. I'm like, oh, bet. But yeah, that's our little origin story. But, as I said before, this show is really about interviewing people who I consider creative to kind of understand, how did you become who you are today so that I can help inspire, others for tomorrow. So I guess let's start with everybody's origin story. Where are you from, childhood and all that, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. So I'm an Igbo boy from Nigeria, West Africa. Born of Igbo parents, Igbo heritage, definitely. We're Kwenu all day, every day. Yeah. But at the same time, I was born in Lagos, grew up in Lagos. So, while I'm repping the Igbo side, I do have a Yoruba middle name, and all of that. So the cultures has always been together, like since day one. Yeah. And as part of my look, I wear a Hausa hat, so I'm pretty much the Wazobia whole thing.
Everything,
But I still rep Igbo real heavy. Grew up in Nigeria, grew up in Lagos, moved out here when I was 16 and a half, so maybe like 2001. Came out here for college, shout out to State University of New York at Buffalo.
Hey.
Landed at JFK with $16,606, which was exactly what they said in how before you go to school, they have like a thing where they tell you like, this is how much your tuition is going to be, this is how much room and board. Like my dad gave me enough for 1 year.
Wait. So the tuition was $16K, and that's all you came over with?
$16,606. It was tuition, room and board, like food on campus, like like meal plans and everything. That whole He was literally like, yo, you really want to go? Like he wasn't supportive of it, and for good reason. Yeah, we have people in my extended family, so my dad's generation, who left Nigeria and never came back. I have an uncle, shout out to Uncle Obiora. He left Nigeria in the early 70s for Italy, never came back. Like, I'm talking about siblings got married, had kids, parents passed, never came back. Wow. So my dad he was a first son, and I'm a first son. And I don't know if you heard the story about the Igbo first sons. Ladies, don't marry them. the stress is different. But literally, he was like, yo, like, you're leaving, like, you're supposed to take care of the family, you're supposed to inherit the family business. My dad owned a very successful computer company. He had spent about 24 years as a bank executive before he retired and started his own business. So literally, he was looking at me like, yo, you this was supposed to be you. Why are you trying to dip? And for him, all he could see was you never coming back. And you can make the argument that, this is what, 2001, 2002 up until now. It's almost like 19, 20 years. So he's not wrong.
You haven't been back since then?
No, I have been back, but I didn't move back. But you know the difference, Paul?
What?
You know the crazy thing?
What?
He lives with me now.
Oh.
My father lives with me.
I see.
So isn't it crazy how life works out?
Yeah.
Where literally my oldie was there thinking like, yo, let me not give him too much money to make sure he comes back. But then look at how life works out. Yeah. Now he's living with me. I'm taking care of him.
Yeah. Now that's beautiful, bro. And I'm actually very interested in that story more too, because you kind of just said I grew up in Nigeria and then I applied to the U.S. And I think that's a crazy jump. I think it's normal now, it's common, but like growing up, why were you so set on I have to make sure I attend school in the U.S.? Like, how did that come about?
So I didn't want to, and I think it's important to point out that I was very fortunate. I was born 1984, so that makes me I'm gonna be 37 in about 2 months,
Hmm.
May 18th. Shout out to Taurus is in the building.
Hey.
So so for me, it's like I grew up in a comfortable, maybe middle class, upper middle class family. The Nigerian story, comfortable house,
Hmm.
drivers, all that kind of stuff. And I went to university in Nigeria. So I graduated from high school very early. I think I was like 14 and a half when I got out of school. And I went to University of Lagos for 2 years. And for me, like I never wanted to leave the country because I had all of my friends and all of my like everybody was there. Like it made sense. Like I wanted to grow up. I had the same friends from kindergarten
Mm.
all the way up to college. So I was never one of those people that wanted to leave. But when you're in a country where things don't work, and from a purely educational standpoint, I had been in school for 3 years, but I only had enough credits for like a year and a half because the school was constantly on strike. Like right now
Mm.
in Nigeria, ASU, which is like the Association of University Workers and Professors and everything, they've been on strike for the better part of the last 3 years. So there's kids who literally were supposed to be in their junior year who are still in freshman year. There's kids who were supposed to be in sophomore year who haven't even started classes, and there's kids who are supposed to be freshmen this year that nobody's even thinking about. So if you put that in perspective, literally a college degree that's supposed to take you 4 years could take you 9 years,
Wow.
and it has nothing to do with your ability to catch up or
Yeah.
keep up.
Just the
So literally,
resources.
it was just like that. So you have no choice, particularly because I was fortunate. I had parents who were able to, do what they could to bring me over.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became an option.
Gotcha.
So for my generation, it was still an option. For the generation now, it's not even an option. It's like, yo, we just got to go. We just got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy.
No, that
But
is
yeah.
crazy. I mean, I think about it too. I came out a little bit differently. I came because my dad won the visa lottery, and
Nice.
that was very fortunate. And even the crazy thing about that story is that he won it, not me and my
Mm-hmm.
mom at that time. My brother was born here, fortunately, but he won
Ah,
it. So he was the only one that was technically able to come here. But
ooh,
fortunately, the way the story goes, like the immigration officer saw me and my mom kind of waiting in the back with him, and he's like, "Yo, what about them two?" He's like, "Oh, they didn't."
wow.
He's like, "I'll sign them. I'll give it to them too." So I think being here is very fortunate, but I wanted you to recant that story because I think the impact of immigration is it's so common now. But I feel like to make the decision to leave your home and everybody you know and move to an entire country with no idea of what to expect, no idea of how your life will turn out is crazy. So I think to
Mm-hmm.
see that you're a living embodiment of that is a great example and inspiration to anybody that might
I
watch this,
appreciate
listen to this, and see that. So that's really dope, man.
Yeah,
And
but it's wild. Like to be honest, like if I had the chance, you know, when I have children, I wouldn't do that. I would never, raise my kids separate from me because, there's all kinds of stuff that comes with it, right? I have times when I sit down with my father and, he's trying to talk to me and I have to remind him like I left home early. Like I haven't, it's I left home in 2002. I didn't spend a night with my parents for like it took like 9 years before I got to see them.
wow.
Like I should be able so things like that. Or now when he's like, oh, why are you thinking this way? You're kind of different from the way I think, and you're my son. I'm surprised. I'm like, bro, I spent more years away from you than with you.
Yeah.
So little things like that, or the fact that So I'll give you an example. I still have the piece of luggage that I brought with me from Nigeria. I had one piece of luggage, and I've moved maybe like at least like 8 to 10 times.
Hmm.
It's still in my basement in my house right now. And the reason why I keep that is because at some point in my life, everything that was important to me could fit into one piece of luggage.
Mm.
So there's nothing I can get today. There's no material, stuff I can get. There's no cars. There's no homes. There's no clothes. There's no fly sneakers that's gonna mean anything. Because there was a time in my life when everything I cared about fit in that one piece of luggage. So I keep that in my home. Every time I move, I take that with me to keep me grounded, to keep reminding me. Don't get attached to stuff. There was a time when everything could fit in here. So, it's a different thing, but I appreciate you letting us, jump into that a little bit. It doesn't have that much to do with comedy, but I think it's extremely important to understand where the hustle comes from.
No, for sure. I mean, that's why I like the origin stories, because I think whenever you see what people are now, it's usually never what they were before, but that before has so much influence on who they are now. I'm always curious to know about that. So I think that story sets a kind of tone to be like, oh, okay, this man kind of went through some things. So like, let's kind of go through more of that. So you were coming here, you're in college, first year, only 1 year tuition. How did you make that all work? Like, what was your thinking, all that?
Bruh, it was everything. So first off, I used to be really smart. So I think my SATs, I was in the, and I don't talk about stuff like this because it doesn't really go well with the comedy side of things. Like, nobody wants to think of a comedian as being smart, because then you become a smart comedian, and that has its own its own thing, right?
In a box,
in a box, and you never want to be in a box. You want to get money from everybody. Facts. So you don't ever want to be in a box.
Yeah.
The only box I'm going to be in is a box I put myself in, which is that I'm an African comedian, which is why the name of my company is African Comedians.
Got you.
And the name of my tour is African Principle of Comedy, which we're going to get back to later on. We're going to get to. So it was a hustle. Like, everything was a hustle. So like I said, I did well in the SATs. So I was in the top 3% in the world for verbal, and top 3% for math, and then top 5% for verbal. So I think back then the scores was out of 1,600, and I think I scored like 1,490 or something like that. My SAT. So it was like crazy.
Yeah.
So but being an immigrant, being a kid from Nigeria, the concept of scholarships was beyond me. The fact that the school actually accepted me blew my mind. So coming in, I wasn't on no scholarship, but then when I got there, shout out to Dr. Capuana, I'm always gonna remember that woman. She set up an appointment with me like a week after I got to school with the honors program. And I came in and she sat me down. She's like, look, your SATs you have the best SAT scores like anybody that came into this school this year.
Yeah.
You have to be in the honors program. So she broke me some bread. So so I started to chop, so literally like little by little, so I got that. Then I was an RA in college, because I'm an RA.
You gotta finesse that, bro.
Advisor.
You gotta finesse that,
you understand what I'm saying? So resident advisor, you get room and board, right? Then I became the captain of the boxing team, so I get a little stipend. So you just keep trying different things, and then I get a job on campus, and then I'm working summers, I'm working winters. I don't have anywhere to go, so I'm constantly grinding. I remember getting my first raise from $6.25 to $6.45, and I took my girl at the time. We went to Applebee's, and I was like, yo, get whatever you want. Get whatever you want, girl.
Applebee's?
Get whatever you want, bruh. Yo, I'm never going to forget this meal. Yeah. It was one of those meals that, like, you can hear it before it comes. Like, it's
sizzling, you be like, oh, shit.
I'm like, baby, get that joint, yo. Legit. So that was my life. It was, so, I graduated in 3 years, because, you can't waste no time, right? The tuition is counting.
Yeah.
So it was just hustles, everything. I did a sleep study. I did a vaccine test like, how, I've never talked about this part, but you know how this COVID vaccine thing?
Yeah.
You did
one of the trials.
I did a vaccine trial, for 2 weeks. I was in a hospital, and it was like 20 of us, and they injected us with whatever, and there was a control group, and they literally just let you be, and you just like, bruh, it was maybe
shit, my neck kind of itched.
bro, this is how crazy that joint was. Every time I'll be sitting down, and I'm like, what did you do to yourself? Because back then there was no Google. I'm talking about like 2002, 2003. Like, bro, we were just taking all kinds of chances. I'm like, I think maybe it was like $900. Like, I risked my whole life. It was a Shigella vaccine. I still don't know what that disease is. Shigella. I don't know what it is, but it was legit a Shigella vaccine.
Yo.
And I was part of the first human trials for that joint. Bro,
that's crazy, bro. I get it, bro. You gotta get it how you live, man. Like, you gotta, bro. Dang, thank you for your service, bro. So
My man said, "Thank you for your service, bro. It was legit service,
Okay,
man.
bet.
Ooh.
So it seems like okay. So you always grinding, and you had the the
All day.
smarts, right? So when you were going to college, what were you going to college for?
So my undergraduate degree is in electrical engineering.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah, so it's
okay.
electrical engineering. But that was also, it was also an intentional misstep. From when I was 14, I was working from with my dad, and like he had like he had a computer company, so we would see. I part of what he did was like computer classes. So I would go with him and I would teach Excel, Microsoft Excel to executives, like bank executives in Nigeria. So he started, going down that Igbo father level of like, oh, you're gonna inherit the family company,
Company, yeah.
which to me is you talking crazy. Like you're not gonna plan my life.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to step away from that was when it was time for college. I didn't do computer science. I went with
Mm.
engineering because I was trying to say like, yo, see, I'm doing something else. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
work for you. You
yeah.
have a computer company. But bro, every single job I've had in my life has been IT. Like I never worked a day as an engineer.
I
Like
see.
even right now, I lead a global IT security team. I have people in DC, I have people that report to me in India, all around the world. And it's all been IT my entire life.
That's
But
interesting.
literally all I did. So that's one of the reasons why when I see people like going crazy about like, oh, why their kids are acting out, I'm like, bro, listen to the kids, man. It's not that hard. If you pay attention, they're gonna let you know like
Yeah.
why they're going in a specific
That's
direction.
crazy.
So
And then look at where it's got you because you never really left the computer scene. So that's it was good. Okay, so
yeah.
you were kind of doing that like let me do engineering, let me get out of here. But when you were kind of before you got all these IT roles, when you were kind of in the engineering path, was it like an intentional reason with a job as well? Did you have an idea of what you wanted to be, or you just said electrical
Mm-mm.
engineering just to go that route?
I just went down that route just to piss my dad off, and and then I ended up when I came over here, I was in an engineering program,
Hmm.
and all of my boys were literally like dropping out of engineering. And so by sophomore year, I knew I hated engineering. I
Hmm.
knew I was never gonna work in engineering. But that whole pride thing and ego thing, I'm like, nah, I'm smart.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tough this one out. Like legit.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I stayed in engineering.
Damn, I
I
relate
never
to that,
like,
bro.
bro. What did you go to
I
school
did
for?
mechanical engineering and sophomore year. What's funny, I actually wanted to switch to computer science, so opposite of you.
Huh.
And I didn't because I'm like, oh, it's gonna be steep. I gotta do all this. Let me just stay here. Mechanical, I'll probably still get a job. And that's kind of how. And what's funny enough, I'm actually in IT right now too. So it's kind of like
Ah,
it's kind of like it just things
bro,
just happen in life, bro. But no, that's good
bro.
to hear that. And one thing that I think might stick out, it stood out to me, but it might stand out to anybody else that's listening, is you're Foxy P, you're this comedian. Nobody thinks about the fact that you probably have a regular day job, right? So I'm kind of
Ah.
curious, when does this comedy come into play? When were you like, oh, let me be a comedian? Like, how did that start to be a thing?
So it was a hustle, and I'll be honest, it was a hustle. So I used to throw parties. Like it just so if you look at my entire life, you just see like it's just been grind, hustle, trying to do different things constantly, just trying to whatever you can do to make a dollar, like a clean dollar, like nothing illegal, because the kind of family I come from, you know, I know if I get deported because I scammed somebody, my mom's gonna make sure I'm going to church on Sunday. Like she gonna make like it's not one of those families where you get deported and you can go chill, for like
Yeah,
for like 6 months till you
yeah.
get your bearings, and then they can like your family gonna make it seem like, oh yeah, he just he was tired of being in America, so he just moved back. No, my mom is literally gonna take me to church, and literally people will be like, oh, when did you come back? They're like, no, he didn't come back. He was deported, though. Like legit, I know my mom. I know my mom. So
Yeah,
off of that, you have to, if you know the kind of
I
family you're
got
from,
you.
you have to condition yourself
No,
based off of that. So I
facts.
knew I couldn't make no dirty money. I couldn't make no funny money. So it had to be legit. So every single thing. So I used to throw parties, and my first job so I did go to grad school for computer security,
Oh,
which
okay.
which because when you've been working in IT for a long time, all through undergrad, your internships and everything, I got tired of getting jobs, going to interviews, and everything was good, and people looking at me and saying like, you can make more as an engineer, and I'm like, I don't want, to be an engineer, or people will be like, oh, uh, your resume says engineering, but it's showing all this IT experience. So I just needed something in that field. So I went for computer security. And the reason I picked computer security was because my first job after school, it was an IT job. And I just looked around and there was this one dude who never did anything. He would just go from cube to cube, chatting up everybody. He knew all the sports teams and he's asking questions about different things. Like, how about them Lakers? What do you think about that's all he did. And I'm like, what does this dude do? And they were like, he's a security guy. I'm like, bet. That's what I'm going to school for. Like, don't tell me nothing else. Like, bro, like, I'm trying to chill. So anyways, so I'm in college, grad school, and I start throwing parties. And
this is in grad school. You were throwing parties.
This is grad school. I'm throwing parties. Yeah, grad school. I'm throwing parties. So I'm throwing parties here in Maryland. I went to Towson University in Maryland, and I'm throwing parties. And I graduate. My first job after grad school was KPMG, which is like a public accounting firm. I was like an IT security consultant guy. I'm hanging out with these white boys. God bless them. They're like, yo, let's go out. You know how white boys. Yeah. You know where you went to school, so you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so they're like, yeah, let's go out. They take me out. It's like the white boys thing, like, we're drinking, getting drunk, and that's it. And I'm like, this is it? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right. In 2 weeks' time, I'm having my party. Come through. So they came to one of my parties. Now, Paul, I invite people to my parties all the time because, it's my party. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect. If I knew where this was going to go, I would never have done it. So they come. First of all, security has to come get me because dress code. They're not, they came with a white boy, hat backwards, T-shirt, jeans.
Was this party like at a venue or was it like a house party? Like, how is this?
This is like a club. This is like a club.
Wait, what?
Like VIP, like the whole nine. Like I was throwing parties, like that party, like
what?
A party group and everything. Yeah.
You got to explain more of that. So like, this came out of nowhere. Okay. I'm thinking like, you got a crib. I want to invite some people, small little thing. You talking about like a venue party.
Yeah. Like, bro, like we did, so like venue parties where you sell tables and stuff. So you buy out the club. Like you literally would talk to the owner and you tell him like, okay, how much do you make in a night? And he'll be like, I make 20,000 for my bar. And then they set a bar guarantee. Like if I make you that 20,000, anything over that, I get a cut. And people are gonna pay me to get in. And then the DJ is mine. Like the club is mine for that night. Like a party. What
made you want to get into that though? Like what made it like, that's a legit hustle right there? Somebody told you? You just like thought about it? Like
it's a hustle. Like as soon as I came to Maryland, the first question I asked was, what do you guys do to make money? Clean money.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what I always do. Anywhere I go, I ask. I start talking to people.
Yeah.
See who you have affinity with. People that you align with. And then next thing I ask is like, how do you get bread? What do you do? And then they told me, and I was like, all right. So this is how it started, right? Because I was in grad school. The guys that they were already throwing parties, but they were doing little house parties. You know how basement parties. So I was like, all right. They came to me and they were like, I'm in grad school. I had a little bit of money. And they're like, we need an investor. Want an investor. And I'm like, how much do you want? And I think the first time I gave them like $300. And we did the party. The money came back. And then the next time I gave them $500. We did the party. The money came back. And I was like, okay, let's go all in then. So what we used to do then, Paul, was because we're trying to do 18 and over parties, because this is college parties.
Yeah.
In Maryland, it was hard to find venues. So we would go to a pizza shop or we'd go to a Chinese restaurant and we'd talk to the owner and be like, what time do you close on Saturday? And they'd be like, we close at 9. We'd be like, can you close at 8? They'd be like, why should I close at 8? Because we want to use your spot. I'm not really sure, blah, blah, blah. How much do you make your entire weekend? A good, don't ask me this kind of, no. Talk to me.
Yeah.
Do you make up to 1,000? Now, no. Okay, we're going to give you 1,000. Whoa, why are you going to give me 1,000? Because we want to use your spot. So legit, like all of the pizza shops, Chinese restaurants, Indian restaurants within like a 20-mile radius of Baltimore, we would hit them up and do parties there.
Oh.
So legit, we would come like at 8 p.m. and stack up all your chairs in the cut, bring my security, bring my DJ, bring everything that I need to throw a party, and people start coming through. And we were selling bottles in there, bro. We were selling bottles in pizza shops.
The pizza shop.
Yeah, legit. And there's pictures of it. So the point I'm trying to make is like, one of the reasons why you're never gonna see me argue with anybody about who's funny and who's not is because I don't care.
Got you.
It's about the business. It's about the business. And it's show business. You show and you do the business. That's it. Like, so Yeah, I don't get too carried away. But anyway, so that was
Okay.
that was how the whole party
Gotcha.
thing
Okay, I
started.
wanted to
So
clarify that.
so I
Okay.
was so I started to do parties in like bigger lounges and bigger clubs and all of that. And so I invited my coworkers, and then they came dressed. So this is back in like 2006, 2007 when Niger boys used to dress like we were going to the bank
Mm-hmm.
when we were going to parties. Like we would wear like three-piece suits with like a tie, briefcase, the whole nine, bro. Like it was a problem. Like if you think pants are tight now, bro, you could count the change in my pockets with the pants I would wear. Like it was like,
The skinny
yo,
jeans.
skinny everything. So they came and
Yeah.
they came in. I came and got them at the door, took them to a table, sat them down, had some bottles come over, and then they were seeing me like moving around. I'm like, yo, people are coming up to me like, yo, Foxy, where's my bottles at? I'm like, okay, yeah, he got two bottles. Give him one rosé and give him one Hennessy. What's the problem? Okay, give him a great, like, give him an extra bottle. Like they saw me doing all of this, and these are KPMG boys. These are accountants. So they're doing the math. They're like, ooh, that table is 2,000, 2,000, 5,000. They're doing the math. And when they did the math, when they came to the conclusion of about that I was doing something different from what I was doing. So when we get to work on Monday, the conversation started off with, oh, he throws parties. It went from that to he's making 20,000 every weekend. He owns a club. He's only doing this job for
Oh.
insurance.
Oh, snap. They're playing
So
telephone.
off
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that, they just took it to the next level, and
Yeah.
because that's the only way to make sense to them. Like, how would you have a coworker who's an entry level coworker, who's, I got a fat stack in my pocket, like, bro, like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So long story short, they told my boss, and she was like, "Oh my God, look at you, you're a celebrity," and it was sweet for like 2 days. By the third day, bro, it was now hell. She's like, any mistake you're making with work, she's like, "Oh, you need some rest, because
Oh,
with
because
your
now she's thinking
club,
that, like, yeah, you ain't
you're
prioritizing
di-
work.
you're distracted. You need some rest. See, you're making all these silly mistakes. Blah blah blah. Why are you leaving early today? You have an event in your club. It now became a problem. So I had to pivot
Mm.
from throwing parties, and I had to think of something I could do by myself,
Gotcha.
where I would be providing a service, and I would get paid for that. And I started to think about it, and people had always told me that was funny. So the goal now was to figure out how to take that funny and turn it into a business.
I see what you're saying.
So I don't want anybody listening to this to be like, oh, I thought I was going to be listening to a comedian that's going to romanticize comedy. If you want that, by all means, there's people in comedy clubs right now who've been doing open mics for 10 years straight, and they're still getting paid 2 drinks after they perform.
Wow.
I saw that life, and the first time I told my dad I wanted to do comedy, you know what my father said to me?
What?
He was like, look, you have a master's degree. Anything you do it like you have a master's degree. So off of that, bro, I'm never gonna be in line waiting for somebody to take me on tour. No, I'm gonna take myself on tour. I'm
Yeah.
gonna flip those jobs. I'm gonna package myself. I'm gonna bring it all together. And that's the reason why, I went from, pivoted from throwing parties to doing comedy, and then your school now came and booked me. Like so
That's
that's the
that's
progression.
the progression. Yeah. No, that helps to paint a picture, man. Because I think even when we talk on some just regular stuff, it's very like I kind of promoted this where I knew you were gonna talk about the business of comedy because I was curious. You can do comedy, right? But how do you make money from it? And it seems like from your first pivot into it, you were like, how do I make money from like I'm not gonna just
That's
do
it.
this. I'm funny, but like how do I make sure that this provides me a living? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about that. I kind of want to learn more how you did that. So you were told you were funny. You wanted to be like, oh, let me try this comedy thing. What went into your idea of how do you make profit from it? Was it like I have to do this many shows per weekend, or was it more like I have to get a show here, a gig here? How did you actually make it profitable for you?
So I had to do my research to find out who's actually making money in comedy, right? Comedy is a very funny thing in that you could have people that are not even funny at all, but they're making like 40,000 a show, and you could have a kid that's killing it, and he's getting $50 after he performs. So you have to now ask yourself, what are you more concerned about? Are you more concerned? It's like the NBA. It's like everything else. There's kids in the hood that's way more talented than LeBron. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
But they're not in the league. It could be for whatever reason. Maybe they don't have the right agents. Whatever the reason is. But life is not fair. You have to figure out how to put yourself in that position. So for me, I started to think about it like, because this is how comedians make it. You start going to open mics. Maybe you do the open mics for like a year, 2 years. the club owner is now like, you know what, you're actually pretty good. You know what? I want you to start hosting for me. And each time you come, I might give you $20. I might give you 2 drinks. I might let you get a free meal, right? And you keep doing that for another 2 years, and then you're gonna be fortunate one day. Kevin Hart, no, maybe not Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's way too big. Uh, let me see, who's like a mid-level comedian that you would say is like, pretty good, but he's not like maybe all them kids from Wild 'N Out.
Yeah, I think that's what I
guys
would say. Yeah, so I'm thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the guy with the DC Young Fly, yeah, DC for instance, right? DC comes to the club, you open for him, you kill it. He's like, oh my God, this kid is nice. He takes you on tour with him. Then he takes you on tour for like a year. You're still not making any money, but now you're with DC. You get to Hollywood, boom, boom, boom. Then maybe like 2-3 years later, they say it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Then eventually, after 9 years in, boom, you make it. You have people like Leslie, Leslie Jones, like Leslie,
from
the
Orange
comedian.
New Black, yeah.
She was also in she was in this movie and in the Coming to America movie.
Too, yeah, okay.
Coming to America,
yeah.
She started comedy in 1987, bro. And she's just now at the top of the mountain. And that is not an unusual story, And I love people that grind like that. But bro, remember what I started off with? Like, I'm an immigrant. I came from a different continent. I'm not here to mark time. I don't have those 3 years or 10 years or 15 years, I need that bread now. So I have to figure out how to get to that bread now. So I have to now think to myself, comedy is all about presentation, It's the way you present the product. That's what people are going to pay you for it. Jokes don't have a value on their own. You're not going to see a joke and be like, damn, that's a good ass joke. You know what? Let me give you 5,000 for it. No. It's all about the way you put it together.
Yeah.
This might sound crass, but it's the same thing with strip clubs. There's some strip clubs where it's like $5 a dance. There's other strip clubs where it's $2,000 a dance. I mean, I'm no disrespect, but it might be the same women.
Exactly.
It's just the packaging is different in those two clubs. So comedy is like that too, So I have to think about it. So what I did was, you asked me how I did it. I realized that I have to put it together and make it make sense. So one of the things about comedy is you want to be on tour. People pay you more if you've been on tour. If you see comedians when they introduce themselves, they're like, oh, coming off his last tour where he went to Australia, it shows that you've done something. People are not just coming because you're funny. They want to know that you accomplished something, which is one of the reasons why, basketball players wear jerseys to represent that they're playing for a team, I'm not just going there just to watch some random dudes. Like,
they want to feel like, yeah. No, I feel.
Yeah. So anyway, so I started out with universities that were, of course, Towson University, that's school I went to, so that was a no-brainer. Did their ASA, went there, performed. Did a couple of other schools around Towson. I wasn't even that good, but I recorded all of that, stitched it all together. It's somewhere on YouTube. Nobody should go watch it. It's terrible. But literally, bro,
I'm gonna find a clip.
Oh, please don't. But I did like 4 of those schools.
Yeah.
And as I did those 4 schools, what did they end up being? That's a tour. It was free shows. They didn't pay me nothing, but that wasn't what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for the money now. I was looking for the money and the payoff in the future. So I did those 4. So as soon as I did those 4, my goal was to break into the Ivy League universities because I needed that big name. So boom, I start sending emails out to Yale and Princeton and all these other schools. And I'm sending the emails in third person. I'm like, Nigerian-born comedian Foxy P is currently on a African Princess of Comedy tour. He's currently on the East Coast right now. So if you guys want him to come perform at your school, let us know right now, because once he leaves the East Coast, that's it. He may not come back till next year. So boom, Yale hits me up and they're like, yo, we want you. As soon as they hit me up, I go do that show. I bring my camera with me, record that joint, I flip it. Princeton, I send him an email now. Comedian Foxy P is still on tour right now. He's the first African-born comedian to perform at Yale University. And, he's right there. And, Ivy League schools, they go at each other's throats.
Yeah.
They're like, what?
Yale.
Yale. How much they pay you? 300? We're paying you 1,000, bro. Like, what? Yale? Oh, Yale?
Yeah.
What? They only got 4 letters in their name. We got 7. Like, what? Legit. So boom, I do Princeton now. So now the email has changed that I'm sending to the schools now. Now it's Foxy P, the first African-born comedian to perform at the Ivy League universities, Princeton and Yale, is on tour. Now the price is up. Because now I'm the only person that's done those 2 schools at that time, bro. I'm talking about like 2009, 2010,
Yeah.
early,
Yeah, yeah,
before
yeah.
social media. There was no Instagram, no Twitter, no YouTube was there, but nobody was really putting stuff up there like on that level.
Yeah.
So literally, I did that, and I did NYU. I did all of those schools, like all them big money schools,
Uh-huh.
crushed all of them. Now I stack all of them together. So now when I'm sending you an email, I'm literally sending you an email telling you this date is gone, this date is gone, this date is gone. This is the date that's available for you. It's not even your choice anymore. This is the only time I can come to your school, and I'm gonna charge you $3,000. That's it.
Wow.
So I have to figure out a way to get in front of that line. I'm not gonna be doing like open mics forever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And as
Man.
soon as I figured it out, Paul, as soon as I figured out that whole thing and how it worked, I went back home to go bring my boys with me. And that's how
Yeah.
I started signing comedians at that
Got
point.
you.
Because I had to make sure that not only am I putting money in my pockets, I'm also empowering them.
Yeah.
But most importantly, as a businessman, you have to always figure out a way where you can make money
Without
while
work.
you're not working.
Yep, exactly. You have to
You want to
automate
make
that
money while
process.
you're asleep.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Automate the process. So you empower these young men, and they took it to the next level. You know, Kami, Capone, Chief Obi they just destroyed the game, and that was it. And from that point on, that's when it became a real tour. It became the real African Princess of Comedy tour, because before it was just one dude
Yeah.
or one nigga on that tour. You know?
Yeah. No, that's
You
that's
know?
crazy, bro. I
That's
like that.
it.
I gotta think about that because there was some stuff that came to me as you was talking. So when you were hitting these shows up, I know you did your first couple was just ASA. So once again, African Student Associations. When you were not
Mhm.
when you were trying to get into these other schools and get that bread and make yourself look like you've done all this, was it more like, hey, I'll come to your show and I'll come to your school and I'll just do a set, or are you also looking for those ASAs within these Ivy League big schools? Like, how were you kind of trying to get in there? What was your goal?
That's an excellent question. So this is the thing, right? Different schools. So ASA is the African Student Association. It's a club on campus, right? I used to be the president of the boxing club in my campus when I was an undergrad, right? So I understand how the student union budgets work, right? Based on the number of students you have in your group, that's the kind of budget they give you, right? And the number of events you do. ASAs usually do 2 events the whole school year.
Mm-hmm.
They do one in the fall and one in the spring. Whichever one is the biggest, that's where the most of their budget goes, right? So that's one thing. The money that the ASA gets is going to be based off of how rich the school is, right?
Mm.
So of course, look at your school. You guys are renting out your own like stadium.
Yeah.
Like, bruh, like you guys, the food that you guys serve, your food budget is the budget for other schools' entire show.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Shout out Michigan.
Shout out Michigan. Dope school. Showed mad love to the African kids.
Yeah.
But if I'm thinking about how to optimize my revenue and how to get as much as I can, I'm not going to be trying to talk to the community colleges. I love the community colleges, forever and ever, but they can't afford to pay me what I want to get paid. Number one. Number two, they can't afford to get me and my comedians, because my boys need to eat too. So I have to go where the money is at. And where is the money? The Ivy League schools.
Mm-hmm.
So you see how it's coming
I see
together.
what you're saying now. Okay, I see why you kind of went that route.
So I had to do that. So it was very intentional.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So once you do that, then you get in there, and you asked an excellent question too. At that time, ASA events were being hosted by the funny African American kid on campus.
Interesting.
So a lot of times there was like, how every once in a while we get into that whole thing between black folk and African folk and everything, the people who go on stage and tell jokes about, African booty scratcher thinking it's funny, whereas there's people who grew up with that trauma and they're looking at you like, bruh, that is not funny.
That's not funny
at all.
bro. Been through that.
You understand what I'm saying? Or making comments about accents and things. You know how it is when somebody's making fun. There's nothing wrong with that, but if that person is not of your culture, it can have an edge to it.
Mm.
So once I realized that I knew that there was a market for African comedians to perform at these events, so these schools were looking. The demand was that there was no supply.
Got you.
So that's why I had to sign comedians, because I had to feel that. I had to feel that need.
Yeah.
I had to push it out.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what happened. So
Got
you could make a point that we were the first generation of comedians that literally we created a market where we're reaching out to schools and saying, look, reaching out to ASAs and saying, look, we know you have a show coming up.
Yeah.
Who do you want to be on your mic?
Exactly.
An African kid that understands the culture, that can talk to the parents in the crowd, give you the material that caters to you, or somebody who's not like literally that's all it was, you know. So legit.
That's smart.
Yeah,
You found
that's
that. You
what
found that
happened, man.
niche, bro. No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It paints a lot of paints the picture now. And now I'm curious. Let's talk about that. You know, this African princess of comedy. Now I think what's really dope about this is that you felt that like I got to bring my people up, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious. How did you go about that? Was it like, did you always know? Oh, I know that homie is funny. If I had the opportunity, I would do something with him. Or was it more like they reached out to you like, yo, I heard you've been getting this money at these shows. Like, how do I do that? Like, how did that actually become a thing?
So it was very organic in terms of people reaching out. Of course, people would always reach out. You know, they'll hear about, you know, because my comedians are killing it, like destroying it. Like we went on a tear. I think in 2013, was it 13 or 14 when Instagram first started doing videos? We did a video a day for a year, bruh. Anything in life, bro, anything in life that you do every single day, you're going to be the best at it. There's no way. There is no way. Like, I remember we had more followers than Wizkid. Like, this is so,
Wow.
but that's, you know, but that's what, with new social media, it happens that way, right?
Yeah.
The early adopters, whether it's Kik, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, whatever it is. But if that social media app stays up long enough, it starts to resemble real life. So Wizkid, of course, in real life is way more popular than we are, right? So over a certain period of time, it starts to, you know, it starts to rearrange and, you know, balances out. So now he's sitting on, you know, how many hundreds of millions of followers, and we're still where we are. So, you know, but back then, the point I'm trying to make is a lot of the comedians, people coming up with like, yo, you know, they're seeing what we're doing, and they started to reach out and everything. But the main driver for me was, there was an award show, and big award show, and none of us were nominated for best comedian. It's an African award show and Stimmen award show. None of us were nominated for best comedian, and people were talking on Twitter like, yo, why didn't you nominate these dudes? Like, we watch them every day. And their response was, they're not real comedians. They're social media comedians. So I'm like, all you're consuming is our skits that we're doing online. But bro, come into my world, like we rock stages.
Yeah.
But you calling us social media comedians? I'm like, all right, bet. I reach out to all the comedians, all the social media comedians at this point. I reach out to them. I'm like, you know what? You know the easiest way to go from being a social media comedian to being a real comedian? We're gonna go on tour. And that was it. African Princess of Comedy tour. Like literally African Ape, Dulo, Wawa Boys. Like it was like everybody. And much love to all of those dudes. Like as soon as I said this is what we're doing, there wasn't a single person that was like, oh, how much you gonna pay me? Blah blah. They were like, bro, let's go. The first show we did it here in Maryland. The first show we did, I remember we wanted to rent a stage, and they were like 2,000. 2,000 was more than the budget for the entire show. So we built the stage ourselves. We went to Home Depot, got some wood, got some stalls. There's still videos on it. Bro, it was everything. Like it was us. We did the show on a level where if you weren't on stage, you were on out front getting money at the door. Wow. Like that level. Like it was we pulled this whole thing together. So we that was like 2014, and from then up until now, we did big shows. Like, you know, bro, we did Maryland, we did Houston. The Houston show was ridiculous. You know, that was crazy. We had Ice Prince. That was 2015. We did Dallas. We did Hollywood. We did Hollywood because a lot of my comedians were like, I can't wait till I make it to Hollywood. And I'm like, bro, let's go. And they're like, oh, but you know, somebody has to say. I'm like, no, it's America. we can go. We can go. And we went out there and we did a show in Hollywood on a Sunday that had 800 people. Wow. And a week before that show, we had only sold 150 tickets. Wow. Because people were like, we don't know these guys. They're coming all the way out here to Hollywood. Bro, you know who's in Hollywood? Eddie Murphy lives in Hollywood. Like, you know, like these African kids are coming out here. So you know what I did? We had only sold 150 tickets. And we tried everything, like, you know, ads, everything. Nothing was working. Nobody was really fucking with us. So I told all the comedians we had sold out tickets. And they were like, word? I'm like, yeah, bro, we sold out. you should have seen the way they started posting that joint. They posted the flyers, everything. So they're doing videos like, you didn't get your tickets yet, bro. It's done. Yo, see the panic. Phones is blowing up. People are going crazy, and we still didn't release any tickets till Thursday before the show.
Wow.
We started to release them 10, 10, 10. So you know how people like try to buy like sneakers that are like that just drop?
Yeah.
They're hitting refresh on our Eventbrite, like, bro, like, yo, let me get that. My girl already got 3 tickets. Like, I gotta come. Like, we have to flip it on them. So, bro, that's been our story. But now we're planning the African Princess of Comedy tour, and this one is called the For My People tour. And this tour right now is focused on our restaurants, the African restaurants who are the lifeblood of any African community here in America and in Canada. They've been decimated by the pandemic. These are restaurants that already, are owned by immigrants. So they don't have the same access to credit. They don't know how to fill out a PPL form. They don't know how to do all those things. Most of the people that work there are people that work under the table. So as soon as the job went away, they had to figure out what to do with themselves. So these businesses have been struggling. So the goal is to go out there, and it's not going to be like our big shows. It's going to be like really small, like 30 people show, 40 people show. But the goal is to like give back to those restaurants, to go out there and touch them and feel them, let them know that we feel your pain. Like the goal is to go out there. It's threefold. First goal, let the people that are within that city know that restaurant is back in business. Second, you've been struggling for how many months now? At least have a day where you're going to sell out everything. That goat meat that's been frozen in the bottom of the freezer, you're going to sell it that day, right?
Yeah.
And then the third and most important thing, bro, if you think about life as an immigrant, what is the one thing we all struggle with? We feel like we're all by ourselves. So just for them to know, like, yo, there's a bunch of young African niggas that's thinking about you, like, yo, we're coming out to come do it. So I told the comedians, they're like, yo, Fox, let's go. So that's what we're doing now, and we're trying to push it as hard as possible. The goal is to get so anybody that's listening now, go to africanprincessofcomedy.com. We have stuff up there so they can go sign up, and we want to get 20 restaurants all around the U.S. We're going to get them signed up, and we're going to do everything we can to go out there to entertain people in those cities. We want people to fly out to come to those restaurants, come spend money at those places. Let's support our people, because nobody else is going to do it, bro. Nobody else is going to do it. So that's the goal right now. So we're signing them up. We want to sign everybody up by end of March, but the tour starts in June, and it's going to be the For My People tour, the African Prince of Comedy For My People tour, where we're doing this for my people.
That's really dope, man. I know you did a lot there, but that's really dope. And the first thing that comes to mind is like, I guess you when you were first starting your story, you were like, I know I had to get bread. I had to make sure I'm straight. But what I'm seeing from you now is like, I'm there. I obviously you still always want bread, right? But you're at this point where you're like, man, how can I bring up people around me? And I want to, before we talk more about the tour and what you're doing next, where did you feel like that came from? This feeling that you had to take care of the people that were like you? Because at the end of the day, when you're in America, you're by yourself. You got to just take care of yourself. But you purposely went out of your way to bring people up. So I'm kind of curious, like, what really made you passionate about that?
Wow, that's a heavy question. So, being Nigerian, you're Nigerian too. Our parents don't just give us names just to give us names, right? They're not just gonna be like, oh, that's a cute name. Let me just name this baby that name, right? We have names that's heavy, that mean stuff, right? One of my names is Onyaya Lawanea. That's an Igbo name that means, you should, thou shalt never forsake your brother. You never leave your brother, right? You always gonna be your brother's keeper. You're always going to hold your brother down. And I was given that name based off of things that was happening, in my father's extended family at the time, where he was always there for his brothers. He was always there for his siblings. He was always there for the extended family. But because I'm the first child, but I came 6 years after marriage, which in the 80s, if you think it's crazy now in all them African movies where the woman hasn't had the baby yet, she's barren. Hey, what happened? Yeah. Imagine in the 80s, bro.
Wow.
My mom didn't have a baby for 6 years, 3 miscarriages, all kinds of, she went through it. So they were talking crazy. They left my father alone. They literally, this was a man who was always there for them. So my grandfather was like, that's the name for this child. You should always be your brother's keeper. You should always be there for your brother. And it wasn't until I was a little bit older I started to realize a lot of the things that I've done in my life have always been based off of that. I've always done things for my people. And that's another reason why we call. That's another reason why we call the tour the For My People tour. Because if you look back, I just gave you the example of when I came to Maryland and I was like, "What do you guys do to make bread?" Right? People told me all kinds of things, bro. But one of the things that I ended up doing was throwing African parties, bringing African artists like Nice, for instance. Nice, the artist,
Yeah.
Nigerian artist, Nice.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first people to bring Nice to America. Like here in Maryland, he performed 2007. That was the first time that any African artist got paid over $10,000. That they hit that mark. So
Wow.
if you look at everything that I've done from that point on, throwing parties, it was always African parties. Then I started doing comedy and I reach back and I get my boys and I'm like, yo, I need to put you in a position where, like, bro, I had comedians who were making 100,000 in their sophomore year, working only on weekends. Young kids killing it, you know. So think about that, right? And think about that piece of it. Then the tour that we're doing, bringing everybody together, to go on stage. Oh, they're calling you a social media comedian. Well, guess what? Now you've been on stage. The video is out there. The pictures is out there. You're not a social media comedian anymore, right? If you look at everything that I've done in my life for the past like 15 years, Paul, it's been for my people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something new. It's always been, but now I'm intentional about it because the pandemic showed me that, we have to be intentional about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Donald Trump showed me that we have to be intentional about what we're doing because there's evil people out there that if you're not intentional, they will play with your life.
Yeah.
So now I'm intentional about everything that I do. So between the comedy tour being for my people, between creating jobs in Africa, like right now we have about, and this is just personal businesses that I run with my spouse, we have 21 people on payroll. It was 15 by December. We started a new business, which is the Launch Studio. So people should go there. It's like a digital marketing. They make like flyers, websites, everything. It's an all-woman tech firm, all women tech company in Lagos, Nigeria right now. We hired 5 people that is doing that. And my goal with all the other businesses that we have, the goal is now to get to at least 50 people on payroll by the end of the year. So the point I'm trying to make to you, Paul, like everything that I do is for my people across the board. I just bought my parents a house. They're about to move into it like next week. Like every single thing I do now is for my people. So I'm being intentional about it. And now I'm talking about it a little bit more. I'm bringing it all together so that way people can see it, and they can inspire people to be able to do more too.
That's good.
I appreciate you going down that route, man. Thank you.
I mean, that's a great answer. And the reason I wanted you to explain that is, I think, when you talked earlier, you don't like to do interviews because, you kind of want to keep your life, but I've always felt, and I've always personally been interested, you mentioned Kevin Hart earlier. I read his book because I liked him, but I'm like, how did you do this? How did you become? And I just love learning how people do it because it's inspiration for me, motivation for me, because I want to accomplish similar goals, but I need to know, like, I want to know, right? So I think that's why I wanted you to explain that. And that's really dope. And another thing you said was you were intentional. You're now intentional about what you're doing. And I remember when we were talking earlier, you were talking about, like, with the pandemic, I wanted to be intentional about, not drinking, Foxy P 2.0. Can you kind of explain to us what you've kind of went through with this pandemic, how you've kind of intentionally changed?
So let me check the app because I have an app on my phone that tells me how I've been doing for my sobriety. It's going to tell me in a second now. So my sober date is November 10th, 2019, right? I'm 494 days sober now. So not a drop of alcohol in 494 days, right? It's going to be 500 days in 6 days, so that's going to be dope.
Yeah.
So so I stopped drinking in November 2019 because it wasn't serving me anymore. The drinking became its own thing. It just became its own thing. Before it used to be like you go out with your boys, you get a section, you get a table, like, yo, I'm a Henny boy, you're a Grey Goose boy, you're a Ciroc boy, I'll sit with my bottle, let me get some hookah, that was it.
Yeah.
But then, I found myself in a situation where, it's Tuesday evening and I'm drinking. And there's nothing to celebrate. Like, it's not like Nigeria won a soccer match anywhere or anything like that, bro. There's nothing, like, literally, I'm killing half a bottle of Henny just because it's Tuesday.
Wow.
So I'm like, so it got to a point where it was becoming too much. And for me, it goes back to that whole being an immigrant, being by yourself. I've always been responsible for me. So I can't afford to let anything go beyond what I can handle. If I get a DUI now and I lose my job where I need a clearance, how's that gonna affect my family? So I can't. Children can play games. People with safety nets can play games. I have no safety net. I am my family's safety net. So if you're the safety net, you better be serious about what you're doing. There's a lot of people that's paying attention to you. If it was just the number of people whose tuition I pay back home in Africa, that's enough reason for you to just be focused. You know what I'm saying? Because if anything happens to me, they're gonna drop out of school.
Yeah, you got responsibilities.
Literally, so there is a lot of responsibility. And so this is the flip side of responsibility. A lot of times we focus on the bad side, like, oh, you're stressing me out. Oh, why am I thinking? But that responsibility sometimes is also what gives you that, that stiff, like, strengthens your backbone, like strengthens your spine and tells you, like, bro, we got to go.
Yeah.
So when I got to that point with the alcohol, I was like, nah, I got to let this go. And I don't know how to do partial let go. Like I've never been one of those people that be like, ooh, let's try and do it only on weekends, bro. I will bang on that weekend.
Friday to Sunday is lit.
I will figure out a way to bring that weekend into Tuesday, bro. Like I will. Yeah. I'll be like, look, I took the day off. It's a weekend, so I have to kill that. But then there were unintended consequences of stopping the drinking. By stopping the drinking, I started to lose weight, and as I started to lose weight, I started to feel better about myself, and I started to work out. So between when I stopped drinking up until now, I think I've lost maybe like 47 pounds.
Wow.
Right? I work out 5 times a week. Right? So I eat once a day. Like I'm intentional. I'm not living to eat. I'm eating to live now. Like I'm intentional about what I put in my body. Like you see me with my bottles of water and everything. Like I'm constantly hydrating. So my brain is working on a different level. Like, Paul, let me tell you one crazy thing, and I hope people listening to this, can take this away. I am not a saint by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Like I love, bro. If we're driving in any city and there's a section of the city where the lights are not complete, it's not too bright, it's kind of dark. That's where I want to be. Like I'm drawn to like the darkness. That's me. Bro, like during the pandemic, I would get in my car and drive from like midnight to 3 a.m. Like that's me. I love to be in the streets. Like I love the streets, right? So I'm not a saint by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing I want to point out to people is one of the advantages that I picked up on when I stopped drinking was all of a sudden, whenever I was having business meetings, I would always come out a winner. And I didn't understand it. I would go to business meetings where at the first conversation, the dude, and it could be a real estate deal, it could be something we're trying to buy and sell, it could be something that we're trying to buy property in Africa, whatever, build a school, whatever it is. Like, it would start off with like, they're the ones who called me, so I show up for the meeting, and it's like we start off with 70-30, 70 for them, 30 for me, right? But as the evening goes on and we're deliberating, when we leave, it always ends up at least 60-40, where I'm getting 60, they're getting 40. Or sometimes it would even be 80-20. And you know what I realized, Paul?
What?
A lot of guys, especially black men, or just men in general, where do we meet to talk business?
Strip club.
It could be a club, it could be a bar, it could be a restaurant, whatever it is, right? But we're talking business. This is club talk, right? Big money talk, right? So while we're there, we're going to get some bottles. But I don't drink. Y'all drink. So we start off 70-30. Now you're drinking. And as you're drinking, you're becoming loose. You're enjoying yourself. Life is not that important. Maybe you were thinking like, oh, let me do that 7:30 because my wife has a baby coming. But you're drinking now. You're like, that baby going to be all right. She got a good job, Bro, I did not see this coming. I did not see this coming. Across the board, brother. Across the board. So literally, by the end of the meeting now, I'm walking away with a higher percentage than what you intended to give me. And then once we sign it, that's it.
Yeah.
And I didn't put a gun to your head. I didn't finesse nothing. I was just sober during the conversation.
Interesting.
And so you know what I started to think about, Paul? I started to think about how our African leaders mortgaged our future when they would go for all them UN convention meetings with all them Russians who would drink you under the table, with all them Chinese who some of them don't drink, or even if they drink, they're just going to be sipping on water or something, or the Americans who literally, the man is going to bring his own scotch. You're not
Yeah.
gonna give him something else he's not used to. Americans, they drink one thing.
Yeah.
That's it. And now you're dealing with an African who you're just playing with all kinds of foreign alcohol. His system is not used to it. So all of a sudden now you tell the man like, look, I need the rights to drill for diamonds or to drill for gold in your country or drill for oil in your country for 100 years, and in exchange for that, I'll build your Senate building, which is a deal that the Liberian government did with the Chinese not so long ago. So it's
Wow.
still
It's
happening
it's
today,
happening.
Paul,
Yeah.
where our leaders get drunk and sign all of these things, but because you're a man, you that pride, you can't go back and be like, bruh, like this deal don't make no sense.
No, that's
I
smart.
don't know if
That's
I'm making I don't know if I'm
no,
making sense.
that's a deep impact. It started with let me stop for pandemic, but you realize the impact it was having on your life, and now it's made your life better. So
Across the board, bro.
that's
Across the
great.
board.
No, no, that was great. And I was kind of, I know we're kind of nearing the time. I don't want to take too much time from you. And I think just with everything you've told us, it's been a great picture of who you are now and what your goals are. It's very like, I'm going to improve this place better than I came, right? So I'm curious now if you had to tell us what's kind of next for you. What are you kind of working on now that we can kind of be excited for, or what do you want to like let us know?
So the tour is huge. The tour is huge because you're touching people's lives. I already told you, like, impact investments is everything for me. I don't believe, like, right now I think we have maybe like six, yeah, maybe like 6 or 7 businesses.
Mm.
The goal is not to just do businesses to make money, right? The world is a very lonely place. If all you want is money, you know, bro, it's lonely. You want love, you want affection, you want people to be happy. And I found out at a very early stage in my life, I love to give. I came up in a family that loves to give, so
Mm.
I get more from giving. So now it's impact investment. Everything that we do is impact investment. How is it impacting people? Like, we have a factory now in Africa where we're manufacturing clothing, right? We pay the women like 2 to 3 times what they would charge somebody else, how much it would cost to make it. And the reason we do that, because it's an impact investment. We want to make sure, I'll give you an example. Like 2 years ago, we had one of the ladies that works for us. She was like, oh, our kids should change the school for our kids.
I
And
lost
I
you.
didn't
Can you
know
hear
where
me?
she was coming from. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
We got cut off.
Yeah, I think you got
Oh,
cut off.
can
You
we
were
can we
about.
still go?
Yeah, we're still live.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
were just
So
getting into you're paying the woman in Nigeria for the
yeah,
clothing. Yeah.
yeah. In Nigeria, but yeah. So she's working for us, and she was like, oh, she just changed. She's like, oh, because my wife went to Nigeria, and she's like, she lady was like, oh, I know you're coming, but give me some time. I gotta go pick up my kids. And she's like, I thought your kids went to school right next to the house. She's like, oh no, they changed. I changed their school. And she's like, so she's telling me, she's like, oh babe, blah blah blah. She changed her kid's school. And I was like, no, you don't understand what happened there. She's like, no, 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 I thought maybe they moved. I was like, no, 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 no. When an African woman tells you that she changed her children's school, that means she changed it for the better. That means the bread she's making right now. She's like, look, my kids, I'm making enough to elevate
Yeah,
my children's education. So, bro, we're impacting people's lives now.
that's dope. No, I
You
love
understand what I'm
that.
saying? So
Yeah.
one of the things I'm working on now, which I think I told you that before, is I'm working on like a PA program where I'm going to be linking entrepreneurs, people like you who have a full-time job and have side hustles. I'll link you up with young people in Africa who they would be your PA.
Mhm.
You pay for a couple of hours, but
And
the
PA
most
is
important thing, maybe they
personal
give you like
assistant.
10 hours. Personal assistant,
Mhm.
thank you. Yeah. Personal assistant. Everything now is online, so they can, Google Docs, whatever. They can shoot emails for you. They can plan dinner for you and your girl. They can do all of that kind of stuff. All the emails that you were sending back and forth with me, that should have been your PA. Like, literally,
Mhm.
they could call me on Google Voice and be like, Mr. Paul will be with you in a second. And
Yeah,
boom. Well,
yeah,
they may not say it that way. They're gonna be like, Mr. Paul will be with you very soon.
yeah.
you know,
Yo, I need
but
that,
the
bro. This
goal,
shit is steep. I need that.
yeah. So we're definitely gonna do that because the goal, when NSARS happened, all I saw when NSARS was happening, with the pain and suffering and everything else, what I saw was, the young people that just didn't have money. They were economically like stagnated. Like Africa, like Nigeria would do that. Nigeria will press your neck as a young person.
Mhm.
You know, that's the only reason why Davido, not, he can walk on the street and nothing will happen to him. But a young kid with dreads, all of a sudden, SARS is like losing their minds trying to kill him. So economic empowerment. So that's
Yes.
one of the things that I'm working on now. So there's a pilot program. I'm gonna pull you into the pilot. I already have five. I already have five people in the pilot program. I might pull you in because I think you'll be a good mentor because it's a mentoring thing too.
I see.
You're gonna have to mentor that person and show them how to do stuff and everything else. So, bro, that's all.
I'm
So
about it, bro.
if anybody's listening to this podcast and you don't take anything else away from this, be the change you want to see. Go out there and do it. It's not that hard. It's not that hard, bro. Literally, these PA I'm talking about, it's 1,000 naira an hour. You know how much 1,000 naira is?
How much?
$2, bro.
Wow.
It is not that hard for you to make a difference in people's lives. And that this money I'm telling you, it is 8 times the minimum wage in Nigeria right now. 8 times, bro.
What?
Factor of eight. Factor of eight. I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying. $2 an hour is 8 times the minimum wage that the government has said this is a living wage. So imagine the level of impact if you're able to just have somebody working for you, and you're giving them like $50, every 2 weeks or whatever. Like it's not gonna break you, but it's gonna impact that person positively.
Yeah. No, that's
And
beautiful.
that's where we're
man.
going,
And
man.
I love that, man. I think yeah, I'm really excited about what you're doing because it just shows me. I think a lot of the times we see news, we see what's trending, and we're just like, fuck, man, like, what the fuck is going on in the world, bro? We just saw what happened in Atlanta, with the 8 people that lost their life. Rest in peace, man. And sometimes
They said he had a bad day. They said the boy had a bad day.
Man,
He was having a bad day.
that could be a whole nother episode, bro. But what I'm getting at is that we're constantly bombarded with the negatives of life. So I love that you're telling us what you're doing. You're being actionable about it. Like it's not just words. Like we can go out there and see what you've done. We can see the impact. So I love that, and I want to keep spreading that. I want to if you guys listen to this, watching this, share this with somebody that you think would really appreciate this. So no, I'm really inspired by it. I'm really motivated. And in closing, I also want to you kind of said a lot of stuff, but I want to know if you had to just share one word of advice to anybody listening, watching, what would that be?
Um, the advice that I'll give, and this, I know there's probably a lot of religious people that are listening right now, so I don't want them to take it the wrong way, but just work with me here. The Christian faith believes that, well, the Muslim faith believes that you die and you go to heaven and you get your reward, right? Our Christian faith is quite similar, right? You die, but if you give your life to Christ before you die, so you could be Hitler, you could be the worst person in the world, and then if you just say, God save me before you die, you go to heaven, right? So literally you could be a dick to people, right? And you could still make it in. But the Jewish faith doesn't believe in an afterlife. There's no heaven, right? What they believe in is live a good life so that way you have a legacy so your children can benefit from the fact that their father was a good man or their mother was a good woman. So for me, I'm not Jewish, I'm Christian. I'm just using that to just paint the picture because these are all Abrahamic religions anyway, so they have the same root, which is Judaism, right? For me, I live my life like that, where everything I do is all about legacy. When I walk out of that room, what are you gonna say about me? If somebody comes to you and they're like, "Oh, my name is Paul. I used to bang with Foxy. That's my man." You gonna open your business to him and be like, "Yo, bro, let's link." If you and Fox was cool,
Yeah.
you cool with me.
Yeah.
Cause bro, if you think about everything that I've done, it's always been with people. Whether I was signing comedians, whether I was going on tour, anything I've done, it was always I had a credit rating with my people. So my goal in life is to keep that credit rating, that interpersonal rating, whatever you want to call it, by treating everybody great, treating them with respect, doing things that's going to impact people. You understand what I'm saying? I'm still going to fall short. I'm still going to have things that are not as good. I'm still going to say crazy things or do crazy things. But if you bring the sum total of everything I've done, the good and the bad, I would hope that by the time I'm done with this life, the net would be more good than bad. And that's all I'm living for.
No.
So if you have that mentality, bro, you can't fail.
No. I love that, man. I relate heavily to that. That touched me right there. So I appreciate that, man. And in closing, I want to make sure you get all your promos. What is something that you want everybody to know? What you want them to follow, watch, buy? Let us all know right now before I let you go.
All right. So African Princess Comedy Tour is coming out. If you know any restaurants that you know need that love, I don't care if it's a hole in the wall in the middle of Nebraska somewhere. And I've been using Nebraska as an example because my boy Kamaru Usman, the UFC champion, he went to Nebraska. So I don't know why. It just sounds like a hole in the wall, kind of state, place, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but he has to forgive me. But go on my page on Instagram. The Fox himself, THE, the Fox, Foxy P, the Fox himself.
Mm-hmm.
Go on there. DM me, send me their links, send me their phone number, whatever. We'll run it down. And I do have my own PA. So that's another thing too, Paul. I have my own PA who's running all these joints down.
Hey.
So I don't even email nobody. Like, you send me the information, I give it to him, he runs it down, I put money in his pocket, he's happy, I'm happy, life is good.
I love that.
So literally, if you know any restaurant, because that's the most important thing right now for me, and just be good to each other. Understand that this pandemic, it's outside is about to open up, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, mental health is extremely important. If you have a job where you have insurance, sign up to get therapy. It's you're already paying for it. Your company's already paying for it. It's extremely important. We as Africans don't take advantage of it, especially the men. We go through all kinds of trauma. We deal with all kinds of stuff. We internalize everything. Therapy, bro. You're gonna be a better husband, better boyfriend, better human being to be around. So if nothing else, if you don't take anything else, if you don't want to be good to people, if you don't want to help people in Africa, if you don't want to invest in people, if you don't want to do anything, just go to therapy. So at least you're not just gonna be an asshole when you're standing in line behind me. That's it. So that's it.
No, I love that. Oh, and the last thing I forgot to mention is your raffle prize, which is ironic because you stopped drinking, but you're giving away 2 drinks. How now? How are you doing this? So can you
I gotta be like that.
Give a little breakdown about what you're giving away, and then I'll break down how people can win it later.
Oh man, I wish I brought some of them close to me here, but I don't have them. They're downstairs. So it's Alamo Bitters. Alamo Bitters is a product made by Casapreco. It's a Ghanaian company. They used to sponsor us, a few years ago when we had a small show called Towel's Kitchen that some people may have heard about, and we organically started using it. It's like an herbal alcoholic drink that is supposed to get you drunk. It's 40% alcohol, but it's supposed to get your dick hard. It's like an African Viagra, bro. Like it. And the crazy thing about it, I'll be honest, because when I used to sip on it, bro, you know how? Well, we're still young anyway, so we haven't used Viagra. But people tell me when they use Viagra, they're like, yo, they use it like 4 hours before. Like, so if they have a date, right, at 8 p.m. and they're supposed to take her out to dinner and everything, so they time it. So they take it like 6. So we go to dinner at 8, and by 10, boom, it's like, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Bro, this joint, you better have that person right next to you. Because once you start sipping, bro, it's a problem. It's a problem. Like, if you were planning to sip and then get in your car and drive, you will not fit in that car, bro. Like, get high right next to me and be like, you know what? Give me a second, baby. That's it. That's legit. So I figured I'll give them away because once you said it, because I've been sitting on it for a while because. You don't want this to get in the wrong hands, bro. It's a pandemic. You don't want people,
hey, we've been
9 months later, they got 4 kids.
Yeah.
Bro, you can't, it's going to be a problem. So, I'm giving that away. I'm giving it with 2 bottles, and Paul gets to give it out to whoever he wants, whoever wins the competition.
Got you. No, I appreciate that. That's a hell of a promo. I'll explain on the raffle once we let Foxy off, but once again, bro, I just want to say I really appreciate you. I appreciate your message, what you're doing, how you living. And, I really just hope that whoever's listening and also feels something, because I definitely felt, something about how I'm going to change my life, impact my life. So I want to thank you for your time. I know we went a little bit over, but I think it was all worthwhile. I hope you had a good time. And,
it was a blast.
I appreciate you, man. So, yeah, you can just, I think, leave out whatever to go. And then I just want to say appreciate you. And I'll touch up with you later, bro.
All right, thank you so much, Paul.
No problem.
Take care. Yes, para con
Thank y'all for tuning in to episode 20 of the Paul and Pals podcast. Hope y'all enjoyed that. That was a really great way to enter our 20s, so shout outs to us. If you guys did enjoy that, I would really appreciate if you guys could help me out by sharing this with somebody that you feel could also, benefit from hearing these conversations. And also, if you guys have anybody that you would recommend, or if you want to be on the show, let me know. Reach out to me. You guys can reach out to me multiple different ways. First off, you can email me at paul@paulandpals.live. You can follow me on all socials at ponyboypaul. And then you can also just follow the podcast itself on all platforms as well, Paul and Pals. And lastly, if you're more of a reader, you don't really want to listen or watch my beautiful face all the time. I get it. I don't understand, but I get it. You guys can also just read the newsletter, and you guys can access that via read.paulandpals.live. Also, you guys might have heard us talking about the raffle prize. Actually, in order to be eligible, you guys can actually watch this live every other Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. But to be eligible for the prize, you actually have to be subscribed to the newsletter once again at read.paulandpals.live. So, whatever out of those options fits you, I appreciate that. Either way, just keep tuning in, keep listening, and I hope you remember to stay creative. Peace.